Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We're heading deep into Appalachia today, West Virginia specifically, a town called Point Pleasant.
Right. And it's this fascinating place, historically speaking. You've got French exploration history, Revolutionary War stuff.
But also something else, something legendary and, frankly, pretty strange.
The Mothman, a bipedal humanoid moth-like creature with these glowing red eyes. It's become this local treasure almost.
Definitely. And our mission today, I think, is to look beyond just the creature itself, right? We want to explore how this one cryptid, this one story, has really shaped culture, locally and even nationally.
Exactly. It's about local pride, how we process fear, the power of folklore. We've got some fascinating angles here, looking at the history, the supposed link to a major tragedy and its sort of modern life.
We really do.
Yeah.
But we have to start with that initial image because it is genuinely chilling.
Yeah.
You mentioned the basics, but we're talking 6 to 7 feet tall, glowing red eyes, no real head or neck that people could make out.
And wings, big ones, able to fly or maybe glide alongside a car reportedly going, 100 miles per hour?
100 miles per hour. That's the detail that always jumps out. It's
Just extreme.
It sets the stage immediately, doesn't it? This isn't just some weird bird. This is something else entirely.
So let's rewind to when it all began, November 1966. And interestingly, the sighting everyone talks about wasn't technically the very first.
Oh.
Yeah, just 3 days before the big Point Pleasant event on November 12th, there were grave diggers over in Clendenin, West Virginia.
Grave diggers. Okay.
And they reported seeing a brown human being, their words soaring really fast between the trees.
Huh. A brown human being. That's an odd description. But okay, fast forward 3 days, November 15th.
Yeah.
Point Pleasant. This is the main event, right?
This is the one that lit the fuse. Yeah, 2 young couples, the Scarberrys, Roger and Linda, and the Mallets, Steve and Mary.
And they were driving late at night near this specific spot.
Right, near the old abandoned National Guard armory and a former power plant. It was known locally as the TNT area. Yeah, that name tells you something. It was a massive munitions plant back in World War II, so it already had this kind of, dangerous, maybe contaminated reputation in the community.
Definitely a place you'd probably tell kids to stay away from. And that's where they saw this figure, standing there, menacing.
They floored it, understandably, and the creature apparently flew right after them, making some kind of screeching noise.
That's the report. Chased their car down State Route 62.
And the consistency in what they described, that's what's really striking. Everyone mentioned the eyes. Huge, round, and glowing, bright red.
Linda Scarberry even said the eyes were almost hypnotic. So distracting she couldn't really make out its face, assuming it even had one.
Which adds another layer of just weirdness. But then there's the physical contradiction, how it moved.
Right. They described it as being kind of awkward on the ground, a clumsy runner.
But in the air, effortlessly keeping pace with their car at, again, allegedly 100 miles per hour. That's a huge jump in capability.
Okay, let's pause on that speed claim, though. 100 miles per hour, alongside a car. Doesn't that just immediately scream exaggeration or, maybe fabrication? It feels like the detail that makes skeptics just instantly dismiss the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's the most extraordinary claim, for sure. But, the fact that multiple witnesses seem to agree on it, maybe it speaks less to its actual physical ability and more to the sheer terror they felt.
Like adrenaline makes everything seem faster, more intense.
Exactly. It heightens the threat. It turns it from just a weird sighting into this relentless, almost supernatural pursuer. It becomes part of the story of the fear itself.
Okay, that makes sense. And the next day, the local paper, the Point Pleasant Register, ran with it. Headline was something like, "Couples see man-sized bird. Creature. Something."
Yeah, you can almost feel the confusion in the headline. And apparently, that confusion led some townsfolk to grab hunting rifles, not pitchforks. It was immediately treated as something potentially real and dangerous.
Before we get to the bridge collapse, which is obviously central, I want to touch on some of the other bizarre anecdotes from around that time. Because the fear got very personal, very quickly.
You're talking about the Newell Partridge story.
Yeah, the dog story. From Salem, West Virginia. This happened the day before the Scarberry and Millette sighting.
Right. This one was really brought to light by John Keel, the journalist and investigator, who became so intertwined with the Mothman legend.
So Partridge sees weird, static-like patterns on his TV, goes outside because his dog is acting strange.
And he shines a flashlight out towards the barn or field, sees these 2 glowing red circles staring back. He said they look just like bicycle reflectors.
And then the really chilling part. His German Shepherd bandit takes off towards those lights.
And just disappears. Gone. Never seen again.
That detail, the missing dog, it's almost more unsettling than the descriptions of the creature itself, isn't it? It feels so much more violating, helpless.
Totally. It brings the threat right to your doorstep. It's not just something you see out on a dark road anymore. It's something that can interfere with your life, take something you care about.
And think about the location. Again, the TNT area for the main sighting. Mothman almost instantly becomes this living embodiment of that local warning. Don't go near the dangerous abandoned place.
Yeah, it perfectly merges that sort of existing low-level fear of industrial ruins with this new, unknown, monstrous fear.
And the name Mothman, where did that come from?
Seems like it just emerged from the local newspaper reports. Shortly after the first sightings, it just stuck.
Some people have speculated, maybe jokingly, maybe not, that it was influenced by the Batman TV show being super popular then.
Right, with Adam West. And Batman had villains like Killer Moth. It sort of fits that mid-60s pop culture vibe, doesn't it? Gives it a catchy comic book kind of name.
It does. But as you said, the legend might have just faded away as a weird local story if it wasn't for what happened next.
Exactly. We have to talk about the event that really cemented Mothman in American folklore, tied it to tragedy. The collapse of the Silver Bridge.
This was just over a year after the main sighting started, December 15th, 1967.
Yeah. The Silver Bridge was vital infrastructure there, connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia, across the Ohio River to Gallipolis, Ohio.
And it collapsed during the evening rush hour, late afternoon, packed with cars.
It was a catastrophic failure. The bridge was built back in the 1920s, designed for much lighter vehicles like the Ford Model T. By 1967, it was carrying way more weight, heavier cars, more traffic.
And it had this unique I-bar chain suspension design. Turns out, a single critical I-bar failed due to stress corrosion and a tiny crack. The whole thing just went down.
Horrifying. 31 vehicles fell into the freezing Ohio River. 64 people were on the bridge. 46 of them died.
Just devastating for a small community like Point Pleasant.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, people started connecting it back to Mothman.
Right. The sightings had reportedly tapered off or stopped completely around the time of the collapse. So this narrative formed very quickly. Mothman was an omen, a warning, a harbinger of doom that people didn't understand or couldn't heed.
That idea was really popularized, maybe even solidified, by John Keel's book in 1975, The Mothman Prophecies. He leaned heavily into that predictive, prophetic angle.
And what's fascinating from a folklore perspective is that this isn't a new idea at all. A creature showing up before a disaster. That's ancient.
Yeah, like what?
Well, scholars point to things like the banshee in Irish and Scottish folklore, whose cry supposedly foretells a death in the family, or even the Garuda in Hindu mythology, this giant winged bird-like creature sometimes associated with omens or divine messages, occasionally negative ones.
So Mothman wasn't just a local West Virginia spook. It tapped into this much older global tradition of disaster portents, winged messengers of bad news.
Pretty much. It suggests maybe the fear isn't entirely about the creature itself, but about our deep-seated human need to find meaning, or at least a warning sign, before chaos strikes. We want someone or something to have known, even if it's a terrifying monster.
Okay, so this raises that important question then. If it wasn't a supernatural harbinger, what were the more down-to-earth explanations? And why didn't they really stick, at least not for everyone?
Well, the scientists and wildlife biologists definitely had theories. The most common one was misidentification.
The sandhill crane theory, right?
Exactly. Sandhill cranes are big birds, almost human-sized, with a wingspan up to 7 feet. And crucially, they have reddish patches of skin around their eyes.
And the idea was maybe one got lost during migration, flew way off course.
That was the suggestion. Or maybe a great blue heron, which is also large. Or even a snowy owl. Apparently one was shot near the area around that time. And they can look quite striking and have bright eyes.
And the glowing eyes. How did they explain that?
Usually attributed to the tapetum lucidum, that reflective layer in many nocturnal animals' eyes. Hit it with headlights or a flashlight and you get that bright red eye effect. Simple biology.
But as you said, a lot of the locals just weren't buying the big bird theory. Why not?
Well, think about it. If you've had this terrifying, potentially life-changing encounter with something you perceived as monstrous and maybe even intelligent, being told, oh, you just saw a lost crane, feels dismissive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it totally minimizes the experience. It takes away the mystery, the significance, the potential prophetic angle. It makes you seem unreliable or foolish.
Precisely. So people needed explanations that still held some weight, some connection to the strangeness or the danger.
Which leads to the other sort of rational but maybe less scientific theories, like hoaxes.
Sure, once the story got out, there were reports of potential hoaxes, like a construction worker supposedly tying flashlights to helium balloons, trying to cash in on the hysteria.
Or the local explanation tying it back to the TNT area itself.
Yeah. Right. The idea that maybe toxic chemicals leaking from the old munitions plant created some kind of mutated, deformed animal. That keeps the explanation local, tangible, and still kind of scary, rooted in that existing fear of the site.
And then you pivot to the completely other end of the spectrum.
The paranormal stuff, absolutely. Ufologists, cryptozoologists, they jumped on it. Could Mothman be an alien? A creature from another dimension? An unknown biological species?
And didn't it get tangled up with other high strangeness phenomena too? Like Men in Black sightings were supposedly happening in Point Pleasant around the same time.
Yeah, Keel documented a lot of that. It became this whole complex web of weirdness, UFOs, MIBs, Mothman, all potentially connected in some grand, confusing paranormal puzzle.
But I keep coming back to the folklorist perspective. You mentioned it earlier, seeing these cryptid stories as like modern ghost stories.
Yeah, or modern cautionary tales. Narratives that bubble up, especially during times of social stress, uncertainty, upheaval. The late 60s certainly qualified.
So Mothman wasn't necessarily a warning of the bridge collapse.
But maybe more like a narrative that people needed after the collapse. A way to process uncontrollable tragedy. The idea that something, anything, even a monster could have foreseen it. Maybe that imposes a sliver of order onto pure chaos. It serves a psychological function.
That makes a lot of sense. Which brings us to its legacy today. Because the creature itself seemed to vanish after 67, right? The sightings stopped.
Pretty much, yeah. It laid low for decades. But then the movie came out in 2002, the adaptation of Keel's book with Richard Gere.
And that blew it up again, didn't it? National, even international interest reignited.
Totally. And strangely, that seemed to coincide with new reports popping up, but far away from West Virginia. Like people claiming to see a Mothman-like figure in Chicago, even as recently as 2019.
Weird. But the real legacy, the most tangible one, is back in Point Pleasant itself.
Oh, absolutely. That town, it's small, fewer than 5,000 people. They didn't run from the Mothman legend. They embraced it big time.
It became a source of local identity, didn't it? And let's be honest, probably a decent source of income too.
Definitely. It was a way for them to counter those, often negative stereotypes about Appalachia. Instead of being defined by outsiders' jokes, they had their own unique, fascinating, slightly spooky mythos. They owned it.
It's kind of an amazing turnaround. This terrifying figure, this supposed harbinger of death, becomes the town mascot. How does that even happen?
It's a masterclass in reframing, maybe. They turned fear into fascination. And now, Point Pleasant is a major destination for dark tourism.
They really leaned in. There's that huge statue, right?
Yeah, the 12-foot-tall metallic statue by Bob Roach. It's quite striking, right downtown.
And a museum.
Yep, the Mothman Museum and Research Center. Opened in 2005, founded by a local guy, Jeff Wamsley. It's packed with archives, witness accounts, props from the movie.
And the festival, the annual Mothman Festival every September. That thing draws huge crowds, doesn't it?
Huge. Estimates are like 10,000, even 15,000 people descending on this small town. There's Mothman-themed everything. Crafts, food, even Mothman cookies at the local coffee shop.
So whether you believe a single word of the original sightings or not, the legend itself is undeniably real and powerful for that community. Its identity, memory, place. And maybe still a bit of that old cautionary tale, stay out of the TNT area.
Absolutely. So just to recap where we've been, we started with those chilling first sightings in 66. The weirdness, the fear.
Then the devastating Silver Bridge collapse in 67, and how Mothman got inextricably linked to it, becoming this harbinger figure.
We looked at the explanations: birds, toxins, hoaxes, aliens.
And finally, how this terrifying beast somehow transformed into this beloved hometown hero, really resurrecting local pride and creating this whole unique cultural phenomenon in Point Pleasant.
So what does it all mean? Why do these stories stick around? Some experts suggest that seeking out these kinds of stories, this dark tourism, it's almost like a way we try to inoculate ourselves against real-world horrors. We confront the scary thing in a controlled way. Like processing fear through narrative. The Mothman story seems like a perfect example of that, how our deep human fears, our need for stories, and our sense of local identity can all merge together to create something incredibly potent and lasting. A modern myth.
It really is. And it leaves you with a final thought to chew on, doesn't it? If Mothman is, in a way, this modern version of those ancient disaster omens.
Yeah.
What fears, what anxieties in our current world right now might be driving the resurgence of interest in cryptids, like those Chicago sightings or other similar phenomena? What are these stories reflecting about us today?
That is something to mull over.